So, before you were making your own music, who were the musicians that you really enjoyed listening to or inspired you?
To start with, in the beginning, my first obsession was Sonic Youth. I saw Sonic Youth when I was 14, and they're kind of a fashion band as well in a funny way, you know, the sort of Kim Gordon, I guess, to see her being kind of picked up by the band members and by Mudhoney at the end of the gig and like thrown into the audience, and then she kind of has to crawl back on stage. As soon as she gets back on stage again, they pick her up again and throw her back into the audience. And I remember she was wearing a Kiss t-shirt and little denim shorts and like real glam rock platforms. Gosh, she looked amazing. And she was just having fun like the guys. That was sort of, before I even knew I wanted to do anything to do with music, I knew I wanted to be a girl like that. You know, I just wanted to not let being a girl sort of stop me from having a lot of fun and doing whatever it was I wanted in life, you know. So they were my first obsession, and that kind of music, then that was what I collected at first, age 14, 15. Kind of Big Black and the Butthole Surfers and the Jesus and Mary chain and Sub Pop records, and I went to lots and lots of gigs. I lived in Manchester. I moved from Ireland when I was 12 to Manchester with my family, and before I could go to nightclubs I was too young, but they let me get into gigs, so I was at like 2 gigs a week at least.
How'd you get in? Sneak
They
in
don't
through the back?
mind so much with live shows. They didn't seem to ask you for your ID, whereas getting into the Hacienda was a nightmare. Especially because there was a woman on the door who was an absolute cow. But I did get in occasionally. And then in Manchester there was this convergence. I guess I was about 16. And there was a massive convergence between sort of acid house and black music and reggae and R&B and hip hop and all the indie stuff that was going on too. So later on it was called Manchester, but before that it was just mad, you know. And it was really sort of typified by this one record store that was owned by these guys, 808 State, called Eastern Bloc, and it was 2 shops. One side of it was all sort of house, 12 inches and dance music, and the other side was all indie music. So you could sort of shop for both kinds of music in the one place. And so there wasn't like this huge division there in Manchester, and that's what created a very vibrant scene, I think. There wasn't really any, in dance music, there wasn't really any real characters, female. It was obviously the big divas who were amazing and I love, you know, but there wasn't any stars, if you know what I mean. And so, you know, Grace Jones has been a massive influence on me. I saw her play live about 6 years ago in Venice, actually. No, not Venice, in Florence. Just outside Florence, in this amazing place that was like, had been an excavation site, and then they built a big museum there, and she played, and that had a huge influence on the way that I approached the live show, just because it was so simple and yet so dramatic. You know, she's just playing with very simple things like clothing and hats and like a set of steps and a couple of lights and shadow and a bit of wind every now and again, and yet it was like 10 times more sort of than, you know, more effective in a way than lots of explosions and, you know, just crazy lighting rigs and things like that. It was just, she carried it. And although what she does is, and who she is very alien, I think, very kind of, I mean, well, the first time I ever saw her when I was a child, you know, I didn't know if she was a man or a woman, or, you know, whether she was from Mars or what. So, I mean, I'll never be that. I'll always have that kind of root of sort of girl next door in a way about me. But yeah, she influenced me in that way. Just how to approach performance in a simple yet very dramatic way.
Azzedine was one of the designers that she loved. Is that someone you ever?
Never worn.
No,
No.
I didn't remember that. Yeah.
No, it's too sort of bodycon for me. It's no, it doesn't really do it for me. I can see what's good about it, but it's not for me.